very proud of that. But it was a necessity. It came about because that was the way it was. My father told me that if you pay more than 25% of your rent of your income rather for rent, that you can't afford to live in that particular rental unit. So I introduced legislation to put a maximum that no one living in public housing would pay more than 25% of their income for rent. It was called the Brooke Amendment. I'm proud of that.
The Brooke Amendment dictates that public housing tenants pay no more than 25% of their income on rent and mandates government subsidies to ensure that housing operating costs are met. Chapters of Alpha Phi Alpha also work to provide good quality housing in urban areas. Spread across the Opportunity Park area of southwest Akron, Ohio, the Channelwood Village housing development serves as a testament to Alpha Phi Alpha leadership in community improvement. Originally constructed to provide homes for low and moderate income families and the elderly, the genesis of this hugely successful project came in Akron's need for redevelopment in the area. A prominent judge in Akron, a member of Alpha's Eta Tau Lambda chapter, Brother James Williams, was instrumental in the project's conception.
In the late 50s and early 60s, Akron embarked on one of the most aggressive urban renewal programs in the country. 3 large developments, projects, whereby more than 2,000 units of housing was actually displaced. And as part of the plan for the urban renewal area was to rebuild most of that housing. And that was the impetus for Alpha to become involved.
The Federal Housing Act of 1963 asked nonprofit organizations such as labor unions, fraternities, and churches to get involved in building housing for low-income families, individuals, and senior citizens. Alpha Phi Alpha was poised to take advantage of this opportunity to work with government in improving urban living conditions. Aware of the need for such efforts in Akron, Eta Tau Lambda chapter took up the challenge. A $180 contribution from each brother in the chapter served as seed money.
I went to the Brotherhood, suggested that this may be a worthwhile effort on the part of Alpha, and we should take a look at it and see if it makes sense for us.
And I thought he had lost his mind. And first of all, it wasn't so much what he was saying that I didn't really like, but what I was thinking, who in the world's going to loan some black men that much money to start a project? It had never been done before.
No one thought we were crazy. They thought we were maybe in left field. In fact, there was some of us who, we had nothing to do but gamble. That's all right. It was a dream, and if it worked, fine. If it didn't, well, we were right back where we started from.
After a while, and after talking to some builders and talking to other experts in the community, and after approaching the city to make sure that the land was available, we decided to proceed.
The chapter secured a federal Department of Housing and Urban Development grant of $11.4 million for construction, and groundbreaking took place on October 29, 1971. Construction went smoothly and was completed ahead of schedule, and formal dedication of the project took place on October 28, 1973. The centerpiece of the Channelwood Village housing development is the 277-unit high-rise Henry A. Callis Tower, named for the Alpha founding brother. Channelwood Village also includes 144 garden apartments and 130 magnificent townhouses, clearly a far cry from low-income housing. Following the success of Channelwood Village, Alpha expanded its housing in Akron with the 148-unit James R. Williams Tower and Charles H. Wesley Tower with 100 apartments. Outside Akron, Alpha housing projects include Lionel H. Newsom Tower in Alliance, Ohio, the growth continued to include projects across Ohio and beyond. With 17 properties in northeastern Ohio and 16 more throughout the state, Alpha Phi Alpha Homes operates and maintains more than 1,600 units in total. Additional projects outside the state include the impressive Alpha Tower Apartments in Chicago, Illinois, and the Alpha Gardens and Alpha Terrace developments in St. Louis, Missouri.
So our outreach is beyond Ohio. We believe that there's a need for housing all over the country. So wherever's a need, we try to go and assist that. We want to make sure that everybody has affordable housing.
The quality of work that's been done here is well known in many different parts of the United States. It has been a benchmark for the kind and quality of work that makes a huge difference in the life of a community.
We see a bigger role in being able to share our information, teach other chapters, and now other organizations that are out there that have seen what we have done. And I think we're best 40-year-old secret out there.
Eta Tau Lambda's experience in Akron has helped Alpha Phi Alpha chapters to sponsor housing developments across Ohio, in Chicago, Illinois, and in St. Louis, Missouri. Chapters in other cities are currently considering programs as the home ownership rate among African Americans continues to lag far behind that of white citizens. These programs are one way to move forward in closing the gap.
You see this really partnership between the private sector entity like the Alpha Phi Alpha Homes, Inc. and the City of Akron. Other agencies and organizations could use that model to really continue to improve the living conditions, to provide in particular housing for residents. And I think that's their legacy probably, is a good role model to have people see what can be done when they work together for the right cause, put together some innovative and creative people and let them work with government to try to make things better.
Having an organization like Alpha Phi Alpha that, one, helps to educate people about the needs of housing and credit and the things that will allow people to achieve home ownership, get into a home and stay into a home, are the kinds of partners that we always look to have at the Fannie Mae Foundation. In fact, we can't do anything alone, and we certainly can't help the many millions of families that need help with respect to getting into a home of their own. We actually do need partners like Alpha Phi Alpha and many other Greek-led organizations and other nonprofit organizations that are doing really excellent work in providing an opportunity for people to have a piece of the American dream. And so we're very proud of the legacy and the record of Alpha Phi Alpha in providing affordable housing, and always look for more opportunities to partner with the organization to figure out ways to improve the homeownership opportunities for African Americans.
In 1970, Ernest N. Morial, the fraternity's 23rd General President and first African American mayor of New Orleans, called on his brothers to strive for elimination of the ghetto. Alpha Phi Alpha worked toward this goal in many creative and innovative ways. As African Americans made progress in civil rights areas, the fraternity began implementing new programs focused on economic empowerment.
I think Alpha first introduced me to the concept that education is important, and that education leads to political empowerment, and political empowerment leads to economic empowerment, and that all three are very crucial. And if you read the history book of Alpha Phi Alpha, you will find that theme running throughout the history book, that Alpha many, many years ago determined that it was very important for young African American men to consume education. And then we had to move into the political mainstream. And of course, that leads to economic development.
We have had a social agenda to change certain laws for equal accommodation, equal housing, etc., voting. We have gone the civil rights route in terms of legislation, etc. Now I think is what we call silver rights, S-I-L-V-E-R, civil rights, which is the money, and economic development. And for the last 8 or 10 years, the fraternity has been moving very aggressively. But I think in the last 4 or 5 years, it has galvanized.
Economic development is the new civil rights movement. It's no longer a question of whether we can go to a certain movie theater, or whether we can sit at the lunch counter in a drugstore, or whether we can check into a hotel. You can do those things if you have money. But in order to participate in wealth creation in America and around the globe, economic development is the new platform. Alpha is leading the way in economic development. Men of Alpha are breaking barriers in every conceivable venue and are producing not only jobs, but the opportunity to network, the opportunity to provide vendor contracts, and it is the overall nature of that participation that will take us to the next level in America.
America is very much a capitalistic country, and we are all part of it. And I think that we have mastered education. We have mastered almost every facet of the American way of life. And of course, historically, we have had successes economically in this country. We've had very successful black businesses. One of them, probably the largest black business for a number of years, was Johnson Publication. And of course, John H. Johnson is a fraternity brother. We've had North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance. So we've had a number of success, quote, businesses over the years that happen to be black. But now we are more concentrated saying this is an important part of the Alpha agenda, business and economic development.
African Americans are being a lot more successful than they have been in the past, and from an economic standpoint. At the same time, there's still kind of the underclass, the less fortunate. And as those two extremes kind of continue to grow, how do we bridge the gap? How do we bridge that gap? And so I think one of the things that Alpha has always done has always been to look back and to reach and bring up, and we've got to continue to do that.
The fraternity has worked on numerous fronts for the elimination of the ghetto. Through housing development programs and entrepreneurship initiatives, Alpha has enabled African Americans to advance toward economic independence and success. Many prominent Alpha brothers have also contributed to this progress from positions within government. From the outset at Cornell University, Alpha's founders sought to promote African American progress through various avenues. Naturally, political participation and service in government have played an important part in these efforts.
And it was the time Du Bois and Frederick Douglass and the freedom movement was really at its peak. And we in some way were an outgrowth of that. Thurgood Marshall with the Legal Defense Fund of the NAACP, and Martin Luther King, and Maynard Jackson as mayor of Atlanta, Mark Morial as mayor of New Orleans, I was mayor of Atlanta, Dave Dinkins as mayor of New York, Kwame Kilpatrick as mayor of Detroit. We have been a politically activist group of young men.
Other Alphas of this generation took leadership roles at a national level, along with Andrew Young, brothers Charles Rangel, Adam Clayton Powell, William Gray, Ralph Metcalf, William Dawson, Ronald Dellums, Harold Ford, Julian Dixon, and Shaka Fatah have also served in the United States House of Representatives. Alpha's political presence in Washington, D.C. continues to grow today.
It's a great tradition because when you start talking about public policy and you look at Martin Luther King Jr., when you look at Thurgood Marshall, Ed Brooke, and then a continuation through the present Congress with 6 members of Alpha Phi Alpha serve in Congress today. We've had many members, recent members of Congress, Ron Dellums, Julian Dixon, Earl Hilliard have served recently, the 6 members now. We're making public policy, and the focus of the fraternity has been on education and political empowerment. Those have been 2 guiding lights, and I think it's important that we continue that.
Alpha represents leadership. It represents scholarship. It represents a commitment to service, to make your community a better place in which to live.
Alpha has had a strong presence for many, many years, I mean for decades, in Washington. And now we are fortunate in that we have a number of congressmen that are serving, but also we have a reach through brothers that are active on the staff side. You know, when I was at the White House, I was not the only alpha at the White House. We have brothers who are taking staff roles in Congress, brothers who are taking staff roles in the Senate. And it's fortunate, we're fortunate that we can come together and work on important projects and be a part of important administrations.
Among the many alphas who have served at all levels of American government are cabinet members Samuel Pierce, Louis Sullivan, Lee Brown, and William Coleman, ambassadors Walter Carrington, O. Rudolph Agri, and James Joseph, and mayors Maynard Jackson, Richard Arrington, Marion Barry, Norm Rice, and Dennis Archer. In addition to service in government, Alpha's long tradition of military service remains strong as well. Officers such as Vice Admiral Samuel Gravely, Admiral Benjamin Hacker, and Brigadier General Fred Augustus Gordon are followed by more Alpha leaders today.
Whenever my father had a fraternity meeting, all of these men who walked into my house were the leaders of the community. The principal of the high school was an alpha. The coach of the football team was an alpha. Most of the professors and instructors at colleges and universities, Bethune-Cookman College, for example, is near Orlando, they were alphas.
Well, I think Alpha has a major presence in the military in all branch of services. At least one of the flag officers, I would venture to say, is either an Alpha man or familiar with Alpha Phi Alpha.
Alpha Phi Alpha's leadership as an organization has further expanded in the last decade. At the 1995 General Convention, Senator Edward Brooke spoke on the need for Alpha to broaden its view to encompass international concerns.
I wanted to do that because I think, as I've said often, that our intellectual power is so great that it ought to be shared, that we should be given our thoughts and our opinions on domestic and international issues, which heretofore we have not had that opportunity to do.
In 1996, the 29th General President, Milton C. Davis, acted on Senator Brooks' recommendation, expanding Alpha's involvement in politics and government policy with the creation of a new group within the fraternity, the World Policy Council. Appropriately, Davis asked Senator Brooke to serve as the first chairman of the World Policy Council.
And they set about seriously considering issues of domestic importance and international importance toward the end that they would write to these issues, would research them, would come forward with ideas and solutions and concepts to address serious issues. In essence, would become a think tank for Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.